I don't have any more white friends left. I don't have any more white friends left. Let's talk about this. First, I gotta go run an errand up to Midtown, Hell's Kitchen, 50th Street. Roll with me. All right, so before any nice white people get mad, this was a post off of Reddit, a story about this 22-year-old Asian American kid, Korean American, who recently dropped their entire white circle of friends because they ultimately did not feel respected over the years. Let's talk about if I have any stories that relate to this, and is this common? What should you do about it? You know the train's coming when you feel that wind. I'm not trying to take anything away from Ladies Fitness, but can we agree that her bicep looks photoshopped? I'm gonna read through this comment. It goes, I'm 22-year-old male with Korean parents, but I was raised in the deep south only speaking English. I am highly whitewashed, that's self-aware, and I am also guilty of making self-deprecating jokes about Asian people to fit in with white people. First of all, I'm gonna stop you there. That's common, man. It's common to be around a group, whether it's white, black kids, usually it's white in America, where you end up making a lot of self-deprecating Asian jokes to fit in, to show people that you're down with their culture. I've even done it in the past, but I've actually also done it around black people too, because we used to host this comedy show, and it happened to be mostly black in Seattle, and I would have to, at first, make a joke about being Asian because I'm one of the few Asian people in that crowd. Now, I think there's a way to do it tastefully. There's a way to do it once or twice, and there's also a way to go overboard and seem like you're pandering and you're basically selling out your own people. Yes, there is a tasteful way of doing it. However, there is a thin line, and that's always a learning process. This past year, I've been desperately trying to reconnect with my grandparents' culture. My grandparents did not escape a war-torn country, learn a foreign language, deal with multiple decades of disrespect in a foreign land just so that their grandson could be called a chink and be disrespected at school, church, and the workplace. I taught myself how to read Korean with some basic phrases. I gained some basic cultural understanding. Finally, I realized I don't have to pretend to be a white person. I don't have to insult an entire continent's worth of people to be liked by pieces. I gained some basic cultural understanding. Finally, I realized I don't have to pretend to be a white person. I don't have to insult an entire continent's worth of people to be liked by people who see me as an exotic creature. Right. I grew a pair and now I have no more white friends. I repeat, people who see me as an exotic creature. Right. I grew a pair and now I have no more white friends. I repeat, I grew a pair and now I have no more white friends.
All praises and glory goes to our mighty power, Yahweh, by Hashem, Yahweh Shai, by Hashem, Rakah, Kodash. Double honors to the apostles of Great Millstone and salutations to the elect men feeding the sheep of Yahweh, by Hashem, Yahweh Shai, in sincerity and truth, with this great gospel coming out of our Bible. And let's kick it off with the scriptures. We're going to read the book of Isaiah 13, verse 14. And it reads, And it shall be as the chase row, and as the sheep that no man taketh up, they shall every man turn to his own people, and flee everyone into his own land. Right? We're in the times of people turning to their own people. Right? Because they're realizing holding on Esau's nuts is not helping. Right? They was on Esau's jock for a long time. Right? It says, I grew a pair and now I have no more white friends. This is coming from a so-called Asian man, right? He could be Moab, he could be Ammon, one of them motherfuckers over there. Right? It says, I am a 22-year-old man with Korean parents, but I was raised in Deep South only speaking English. I am highly whitewashed, and I am guilty of making disrespecting jokes about Asian people to fit in with white people. Don't worry, you ain't the only one. You ain't the only one. Look at them Jakes. Right? Just to get on TV, they degrade their own people. They make fun of their own people. They disrespect their own people just to be part of who? Esau's society, because they envy the devil, right? I'm going to read the book of Proverbs 3, verse 31. It says, Envy thou not the oppressor, and choose none of his ways. It says, envy thou not the oppressor, and choose none of his ways. And who's the oppressor? Esau, Edom. Everybody done left their ways to be like who? Esau, Edom. Everybody's dressing like Esau, Edom. Everybody's on some robbery shit like Esau, Edom. Some deceptive shit like Esau, Edom, right? unrighteous wickedness, shit like Esau, Edom. They done left their customs, their ways, their religion to follow after Esau, Edom. Who they looking for? White Jesus. They looking for white Jesus. They looking for that Federal Reserve note. They're looking for that British pound, right? But they ain't looking. The Israelites are not looking to the Holy One of Israel. It says, "Envy thou not the oppressor, and choose none of his ways." Right? Jacob got that envy spirit, right? Envy. It says, a feeling of discontented, or resentful longing aroused by someone else's possessions, qualities, or luck. Right? They see Esau. The earth is given into his fucking hands. He's supposed to be on top. Right? He's supposed to be on top, man. Right? This is his time to rule. This is his time to be in authority. And here people are seeing him in authority. They want to be just like him, to the point where they're disrespecting their own people. It says, this past year, I've been desperately trying to reconnect with my grandparents' culture. My grandparents did not escape a war-torn country, learn a foreign language, deal with multiple decades of disrespect in a foreign land so that their grandson could be called a chink and be disrespected at school. Right? That's the thing. You see, these other nations, they don't like being disrespected, but you ninjas, you Hispanics, you love that shit. You love that shit. You love seeing you in a movie as a two-third, a loser, a drug addict, a rapist, an incarcerated person, a homeless person, right? Because that's what they promote you as, right? A deviant, right? A troublemaker, somebody who's no good to, so they call you a menace to society, a boy in the hood, right? You ain't no good to this man's world. That's why it says, arise ye and depart, this ain't your rest. Let's read this again. The book of Isaiah 13 and 14, right? It says, and it shall be as the chase road, and as a sheep that no man taketh up, they shall every man turn to his own people, and flee everyone into his own land, right? That's why Esau's talking about white-only communities. White-only communities. And Jake is like, yeah, that's perfect. You got Jake's putting their money together, building little what they call them things, off-grid living, just none but them and their people, right? Because we're in a time of what? Division and separation. What does the Bible say? Matthew 10 and 34, it says, think not that I am come to send peace on earth. I came not to send peace, but a sword. Right? It said, and the sword in their destruction draweth nigh. One people shall stand up to fight against another. Right? With swords in their hands, paraphrasing. Right? There's a reason why so many weapons are being sold in America, right? You go to one cracker house, he might have over, let's say, 100 guns in that house. Go to some of these gangbanger houses, right? It might be about 7 to 10 guns in there with only 3 bullets. Right? Because Jake ain't Jake. Jake just want to look cool. Jake ain't ready for what's coming, man. They about to unleash with the military on you gangbanging ass niggas. Right, they about to release the troops on you motherfuckers, man. And a lot of you niggas ain't gonna make it, man. It's the time of what? Jacob's trouble. But he shall be saved out of it. Who's that? The elect. Let's go back a little bit. This is Isaiah 13 and 11, right? Because we're in a time of what? Judgment, goddammit. Right? We're in a time of it says peace. No, this ain't no time of peace whatsoever. Right? I just seen a video. They said Europe is preparing for war. You goddamn right they preparing for war, because America's been preparing for war. Right? Anything America do, Europe gonna do. You see what's going on in the land of Israel. Right? You see America about to run up in Central and South America. Right? So this ain't no time of happiness. This is a time of what? Judgment. It says, and I will punish the world for their evil. This is the book of Isaiah 13 and 11. And I will punish the world for their evil and the wicked for their iniquity. And I will cause the arrogancy of the proud to cease, and will lay low the haughtiness of the terrible. And spiritually, a lot of arrogant motherfuckers, they proudness about to vanish, man. When that dollar collapsed, when that business you used to own no longer is working, right? No longer working. No people coming in. No people buying at your restaurant. No people shopping at your stores. Now you gotta what? Close down. Right? You gotta close down that mansion you used to live in. You gotta move out that motherfucker. Right, you used to own a 2-flat. You used to own a building, an apartment. Now you don't own nothing. All you own is this fucking shopping cart that you pushing down the street, right? Because the Lord's about to bring poverty into this place, right? The Lord's about to punish proud motherfuckers, right? It says, and I will punish the world for their evil and the wicked for their iniquity, and I will cause the arrogancy of the proud to cease, and will lay low the haughtiness of the terrible. I will make a man more precious than fine gold, even a man than the golden wedge of Ophir, right? And the Lord is about to do that, because you see bitches' prides is being brought low. Why? Because they being fired from them jobs. Who's the main motherfuckers being laid off? It's these goddamn women, these proud ass women coming into the job with a short mini skirt on, showing them sexy legs, got the titties out, right? Bringing drama to the job. She ain't worth two dead flies. All she do is fucking type and talk, right? The Lord said, get these hoes out of here. They serve no purpose. Even nurses is being fired, right? Nurses is being laid off. Doctors is being laid off. Hospitals are closing. Guess what? That public aid shit, they cutting that shit back. And who's the main recipient of them things? These women, right? So a woman is about to be brought low. So she's gonna have to look for a man, not just any man, a man of God, a man of the Lord, right? It says, I will make a man more precious than fine gold, even a man than the golden wedge of Ophir. Therefore I will shake the heavens, and the earth will remove out of her place in the wrath of the Lord of hosts, in the day of his fierce anger, right? Because the Lord has a controversy with the inhabitants of the earth, right? It says, wickedness have exceedingly polluted the earth. It says, and it shall be as a chase row, and as a sheep that no man taketh up. They shall every man turn to his own people, and flee everyone to his own land. Everyone that is found shall be thrust through, and everyone that is joined unto them shall fall by the sword. Right? That sword, that's what's coming, man. That sword, lots of death, lots of killings. Read the book of Jeremiah 50:16. It says, cut off the sower from Babylon, and him that handled the sickle in the time of the harvest, for the fear of the oppressing sword. They shall turn every one to his people, and they shall flee every one to his own land, right? And especially with what you got going on around the world right now. Everybody every country is kicking out so-called migrants. If you weren't born in that country, they trying to get you out that motherfucker, because you have the migrant invasion in these different countries. Arabs done went into Europe, Africans done went into Europe, different nations done fleed into America, especially in European places, in ex-European places. And when they're not European, they're Edomites, right? Just like Esau invaded, what it says is, thou is done, it shall be done unto thee. You invaded people's lands, so now your lands are being invaded, right? This is the book of Revelation 11 verse 18, and the nations were angry. That's what you're seeing right now. The nations are fucking vexed, right? They had put their hopes and their dreams in Esau's ways, right? They trusted in Esau's ways, and guess what? It failed miserably, right? It says, and the nations were angry, and thy wrath is come, in the time of the dead, that they should be judged, and that thou shouldest give reward unto thy servants, the prophets, right? That's a beautiful part. All the elected prophets, servants of the Lord, man, we're going to receive that reward, that crown of life, and with deliverance. The main thing is deliverance from this fucked up place, right? It says, give reward unto thy servants, the prophets, and to the saints, and to them that fear thy name, right? That's the elect. That's the elect. That's not talking about Christians. The Christians of the world that believe in what? Y'all don't know what the fuck y'all believe in. Y'all all believe in different things. So we know they ain't talking about Trump think he a Christian. Right? You got homosexual Christians. You got gang-banging Christians. Right? You got all type of Muslim Christians. Right? You got Chinese Christians. Mixing they eat abominable food and they claim they Christians. Right? All they know is they believe in white Jesus. They believe they're saved. No, get the hell out of here. But that ain't the truth. That ain't the truth. That's a lie that the devil gave you. Right? It says, to the saints and to them that fear thy name, small and great, and shouldest destroy them which destroyeth the earth. That's what's about to happen. The Lord's about to destroy them that which destroyeth the earth. Who's that? Esau Edom. Esau Edom with his military, with his chemicals, with his wickedness, right? This is the book of Isaiah 14. Let's go to 16. It says, right, let's get to the point. It says, they that see thee shall narrowly look upon thee, and consider thee, saying, is this the man that made the earth to tremble, that did shake kingdoms, right? Esau, Edom. How did he shake kingdoms? With that war, with his military dropping bombs on these different countries, right? This is what the man was set up for. He wasn't set up for righteousness.
Every last one, no matter the accent, they're all Europeans. Every last one, no matter the accent, the flag, the anthem, or the mascot. It's the same tired settler formula, playing out like a rerun nobody asked for. America is just Europe with a gun fetish. Canada is just Europe with frostbite. Australia is just Europe with sunstroke. South Africa is just Europe with a safari brochure. And Israel. Israel is Europe in desert cosplay. A colonial theme park, plopped into the Middle East, complete with armed settlers, stolen holy sites, and a brochure claiming since the dawn of time, in 12-point Times New Roman. It doesn't matter where you drop them. They drag Europe with them like a virus that survives every climate. Drop them in the tropics. They'll get sunburned, plant sugarcane, and import enslaved labor. Drop them in the tundra. They'll claim the ice in the name of the crown and die of scurvy. Drop them in Palestine. They'll bulldoze olive trees, put up concrete walls, and call it security. Same script, different background. Israel tries to sell itself as ancient, but it's as European as fish and chips. The infrastructure, the military hierarchy, the parliamentary system, the passport. Same script, different background. Israel tries to sell itself as ancient, but it's as European as fish and chips. The infrastructure, the military hierarchy, the parliamentary system, the passports, the borders, all stamped with the fingerprints of London, Paris, and Berlin. The settlers speak European languages at home, read European philosophy in school, and enforce European racial hierarchies on indigenous soil. It's not a rebirth of a biblical kingdom. It's just Europe squatting in a different time zone. And all of these settler states, without exception, have the same personality disorder. They pretend to be independent, yet cling to Europe's culture like a toddler to a pacifier. They'll reject the crown while keeping its laws, its property systems, its religions, and its social hierarchies. They'll claim to be innovative while still measuring their success in European terms. GDP, parliamentary seats, Nobel Prizes. Every new nation is just a European franchise with slightly altered menu items. The branding.
You cannot believe this off-the-record interview I had with a senior official in the OECD in charge of industrialization. He said the gist of the message is the following: nobody in the global south is allowed to industrialize without our approval. No transfer of technology. The countries that managed to catch up with the industrialized world up to a certain point were typically handpicked by the US and its allies, and were allowed to industrialize with actual financing that is favorable to them, with transfer of technology, handpicked by the US and its allies, and were allowed to industrialize with actual financing that is favorable to them, with transfer of technology and so on. The fact that so many of our countries, Kenya included, have been essentially following to the T economic policy instructions dictated by the World Bank and IMF in particular for decades. The fact that we are still in a debt trap today, deeper in debt traps today, means one of two things. Either that these institutions are actually incompetent and we shouldn't listen to them, or they're actually doing this as part of their intentional economic entrapment.
See, now you understand why it says the nations were angry, right? Because they understand they've been used. They've been used to push this Edomite system. Because honestly, what did Esau go into their countries for? For the resources. The resources. That's why they're in Africa. That's why they're in these different parts in these different countries. Oil in the Middle East, right? Central and South America, the fruits, the vegetables, right? It ain't just the drugs. all these different things that they use in these different countries. You go to Africa, the salt, sugar canes, all these different things. These things bring generate money, and for this so-called white man, that's what keep his world going. Don't forget the transatlantic trade slave, right? Slaves for food, for clothing, for different other things, right? It says that made the world a wilderness. It says that they see. I'm gonna go back a little bit. This is the book of Isaiah 14 and 13. For thou hast said in thy heart, I will ascend into heaven, I will exalt my throne above the stars of the Most High. I will sit also upon the mount of the congregation in the sides of the north. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High. Right? And even with his technology, he's trying to be like a god, like the Most High, right? Ain't he trying to put a chip in you to know your body, your heart rate, right? Know your blood pressure, all these different things. He got cameras everywhere watching everything, right? You got your TV watching you. You got your phone listening in on you, right? It says, yet thou shalt be brought down to hell, to the sides of the pit. And when he used that RFID chip, that's when he's going to really try to set himself up like the Most High. That's when the Lord's going to bring him down. It says, they that see thee shall narrowly look upon thee, and consider thee, saying, is this the man that made the earth to tremble, that did shake kingdoms, right? And the man just told you all these different countries Esau Edom is in, right? It's all the same spirit of Esau Edom, right? We call them Europeans, but Esau Edom. It says that made the world as a wilderness, and destroyed the cities thereof, that opened not the house of the prisoners, right? All the kings of the nations, even all of them in glory, every one in his own house. But thou art cast out of thy grave like an abominable branch, right? Because it told Esau, for thy transgressions against thy brother Jacob, thou shalt be cut off forever, right? It says, but thou art cast out of thy grave like an abominable branch, and as the raiment of those that are slain, thrust through with a sword to go down to the stones of the pit, as a carcass trodden down under feet, right? The Lord's about to bring judgment to Esau Edom. That's why it says what? Here we go. Let's go to the book of Lamentations, right? Lamentations 4 verse 21. It says, rejoice and be glad, O daughter of Edom, that dwellest in the land of Uz, right? It says, the cup also shall pass to run to thee, thou shalt be drunken, and shalt make thyself naked, right? What's that cup? The cup of slavery, the cup of losing everything, the cup of the Lord's visitation. That's what's about to happen. The Lord's about to visit Esau Edom. Shalom.